So good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Riddhim Pathak, Assistant Professor from the Department of Management Studies. So today we are going to begin with the subject that is International Human Resource Management. Today we'll be covering up the introduction, basic introduction of the subject. So after going through this particular unit of the subject, students will be able to understand the role of human resource management in international context. Then they'll be able to understand the strategic and functional human resource management in international contexts. And the last is the comparative international contexts. So the comparative international context are basically the comparison between different international boundaries in order to understand the different cultures. So let us start with the introduction to Isrm. So the introduction to HRM, in it we will be studying about the basics of international human resource management. This particular term is connected with human resource management. The term which denotes domestic boundaries, which is connected with the domestic boundaries, the management of people of domestic boundaries. International human resource management is not restricted to domestic boundaries, but it is HRM on a larger scale. That is, we'll be studying about HRM in this particular subject, but it will be HRM at a larger scale, in a wider way. That is, we'll be studying many things which we studied in HRM, and along with that, we'll be studying some additional information in it. So the strategic considerations are more complex and operational units are more varied, needing coordination across more barriers. So we all are aware that if this domestic human resource, when we move apart from the domestic human resource management, so there are number of people which an HR person, which an HR manager has to face. So there will be more complex structure of it, and there will be more barriers for a particular HR. So in other words, ISRM is defined as human resource management issues, functions, policies, and practices that result from the strategic activities of multinational enterprises and that impact on the international concerns and goals of those enterprises. So, as we've already discussed, here it is not restricted. The HR aspect is not restricted to the domestic boundaries. It's a wider concept which has moved from the domestic to international level. So that has resulted into different issues. There are different functions which are composed there. There are different policies and practices which form a part of international human resource management. So let's talk about the objective of this particular subject. The aim of this subject is to make students understand HR policies and practices in global environment. So global environment is environment at the global level. It's not restricted to the local, at the local level or the domestic boundary. It's globally, like throughout the world. Different companies which have been established throughout the world. So the syllabus in Unit 1 will be composed of the basic concept of international human resource management. We'll be discussing about difference between domestic and international HRM. And along with that, we'll be studying about certain variables that moderate difference between domestic and international HRM. Then we'll be studying about international business operations, how different businesses operate at international level, how people are staffed, how they are moved at different company in different companies at different places, and how they are transferred. Role of expatriates. Before moving on with the role of expatriates and non-expatriates, we'll be discussing about the meaning of expatriates and what are non-expatriates. We'll be discussing about the corporate HR function, then the selection staff for international assignments, their issues, and there'll be factors which moderate their performance. We'll be studying about role of women in international management. This is all in Unit 1. In Unit 2, we'll be discussing about re-entry and career issues. We'll be discussing in it the basic concept of this particular aspect. So we'll be discussing about repatriation process, and before moving with that, we'll be discussing what actually is repatriation, what this term denotes. Then we'll be moving to individual reactions to re-entry. Then is role to expatriate training or local managers. What are effectives of pre-departure training? We'll be discussing about staffing and training for global operations. So the operations which are at the global level, how their staffing and their training is being done. And at last, in Unit 2, we'll be discussing about managing and motivating multicultural teams. That how are different teams, multicultural teams managed and motivated at global level. Moving on to Unit 3, we'll be moving with performance management, how the performance management is being done at the global level. What is the concept, basic concept of performance management at international level? We'll be discussing about their appraisal also, the appraisal of international employees. The way domestic people are appraised at domestic level. In the similar way, there are certain methods which are being followed in order to carry on the performance appraisal of international employees. We'll be taking care of it in Unit 3. Now we know compensation is an important aspect, whether it is domestic boundary or international boundary. So we'll be moving with the compensation aspect at international level also. People will be compensated. How they compensated? What are the objectives of international compensation? And the most important thing, what are the key components of an international compensation program? Because if anyone wants to move to any international boundary, so first of all, that person needs to, or he or she wants to know what will be the component of compensation. You can say wholly and solely that person wants to know what will be the components of the salary slip, the salary which he or she will be deriving when he or she moves to a company in some other country. So that's the most important aspect for any employee. So what are the approaches to international compensation when people are being compensated? What are the different approaches being carried out in order to compensate international employees? So this is about Unit 3. Let's talk about Unit 4. We'll be doing knowledge transfer within a multinational company at the very first beginning. So before moving with that, we'll be having a glimpse upon the term what is actually knowledge transfer. So what are the basis sources of organizational knowledge? We'll be moving with that also. These are important topics: explicit and tacit knowledge. We'll be doing this in Unit 4. Then we'll be doing about transfer of knowledge across national borders, transfer of managerial know-how, and HRM across national borders in it. Then an important aspect, that is the industrial relations, which is an important part of HR. We'll be discussing about industrial relations in IHRM also, because it's an important aspect at international boundary as well. Then at last, we'll be doing HRM practices in different countries which have been pursued in different countries. What we have discussed at the very beginning of this PPT, that in different countries, students will be made conversant with different HR practices. which have been carried out on different countries. Now let us discuss about different significant IHRM activities and issues. So since the HRM, domestic HRM, simple the term HRM is connected with human resource management at domestic level. So we know there are a number of aspects which we have already studied in the past. So in it, proper planning for the human resources was being done. There was recruitment and selection. Obviously, if the human resources have to be managed, so obviously there need to be employees working in the particular company. So before moving with that process, recruitment of people is being done. People are being selected for a particular company. When they are selected, they are being trained and different steps are being followed in HRM. Now, similarly, in IHRM, there will be additional aspects, but the basics of HRM will be done over here also. Those activities will be followed in IHRM also. So the human resource planning will be done. Then in planning, it will be seen how many people are required at international level, and how many people will be recruited from within that country, and how many people are to be recruited from outside that country. Now, it's not important that it's upon the desire or it's upon the requirement of the company. It's upon the availability of people also. If people are not ready to relocate themselves to foreign country, so that will be a restriction to the company. So taking into these things into consideration, the entire planning will be done. So at last, the human resource management manager at international level needs to know that how many people are required and from where they are going to be recruited, and what type of workforce is being required. All is composed in planning aspect. And after that, when the planning is being done, people will be recruited. Since we are well conversant with the term recruitment, we've studied it in HRM. Recruitment is what? It's inviting different candidates to apply for a particular job. So it's a positive process. Here, different applicants, they apply for a single post. So recruitment is being done, and different sources of recruitment are being followed, methods are being followed. Recruitment, the advertisement is given through social media, through newspapers, through online media regarding a particular opening. People are being recruited. That is, people apply for a particular job and finally they are selected. So they are selected means a selection, we all know it's a negative process. That is, if 100 candidates have applied for a particular job and finally 10 people are selected, so that means 90 people have been rejected. So that is why selection is a negative process. Now, we have just discussed it is HRM plus certain additional activities. IHRM is HRM plus certain additional activities and issues. So in HRM, we studied about recruitment and selection. So this is the part where HR is the basic HR will be carried out, and additional activities will be discussed. So just in the similar way, HR at the domestic level performs recruitment and selection. In the similar way, IHRM also performs recruitment and selection, but taking into consideration different restrictions and constraints. Now, when the people are being selected, it's very, very important to train those people, to develop those people. T&D stands for training and development. So when people are selected, they have to be trained, they have to be developed. It's not important that already existing employees will not be trained. Only new people who are being hired will be trained. Definitely, we know that in this era of globalization, everybody has to be updated and has to be upgraded. So in order to make a person intellect, people have to be trained and developed, whether it is domestic or whether it is international human resource management. Then is knowledge transfer. Now this particular term denotes transfer of knowledge between and amongst people. So at domestic level, because there is only largely domestic people, localized. But at international level, there are different, people from outside different countries. So it's important for one to transfer the knowledge to another person. So knowledge transfer therefore forms an important part at international human resource management. Next is leadership. Leadership plays a vital role at international level because the workforce who have relocated themselves from different countries, if they're not motivated by a leader, if there is not a good leader, maybe people may return back to their home country because they are not feeling satisfied, they're not feeling happy with the country they are moved into. So a good leader possesses the quality of retaining their people in a proper way. Then is team building. Team building plays an important role in the similar way leadership plays. So leader, you can say, or the HR person has to build the team because people have left their families, they have gone abroad to work for, they have gone to for their assignments, they have gone for their job exposure. So if there is no team building, people are working in isolation, everybody is doing their own work, everybody is doing their work individually. So people will not be feeling comfortable, they won't be feeling at home. At home thought means they won't be feeling comfortable. So they may be hesitant and they may be demotivated and they may relocate themselves back to their home country if they're not happy. So therefore, it's important for the HR manager to build their team. So the next important aspect that is a significant activity of international human resource management is salary and benefits. So obviously, if a person is moving, if an expatriate is moving from one country to another, he or she wants to know what salary he or she will be given. Along with that, it's not only the salary which he or she will be given, there are a number of benefits also. Benefits in detail we'll be discussing as the syllabus moves on. So different benefits, we just have a quick view over it. The benefits such as, if the family has moved along with the person, so there is, spouse assistance benefits. There are child care facilities. There is pick and drop facility given. So there are accommodation facilities being given to the employees who have relocated themselves to a foreign country. So such types of benefits are given to a person who relocates themselves to a foreign country. So it's an important aspect for an international human resource manager to see which benefit has to be given to which person. So it's not like that he or she will not think, the HR manager will not think and will give the benefits. He will scrutinize each and every aspect of the person whom they are going to recruit, and then they'll be providing the benefits to them. Next is global labor law standards and ethics. Now, at the local level, when we talk about human resource management at domestic level, so it's important to know about labor laws which are prevalent in a particular country. But when it is talk of a global level, an HR manager or the international human resource manager has to be well conversant with different global law standards and ethics. International human resource manager has to be well acquainted. He has to know different global labor laws which are being practiced in different countries, because there will be people from different countries in a multinational company. Okay, so when they know that these are the global labor law standards and these are the ethics which are being followed in this country. They will not harm the ethics of a particular people of a country. Next is trade unions and negotiations. So they must be conversant with the trade union which are being carried out at the global level. What are the different negotiation techniques being followed in order to settle down a particular grievance, in order to have the proper collective bargaining. So these are, trade unions and negotiation form an important aspect at international level, just in the similar way as domestic level. But an important aspect over here is that trade unions and negotiations are much more difficult at this level, because here the negotiation has not to be done with the localites. Here the negotiation has to be done with people of different countries. So trade unions, they have, since they people are from different countries, so they are conversant with their trade unions. So here they have to be the international human resource manager has to be conversant with how they used to work when they were, they in their country, how they things have to be settled on. So that's why it becomes something difficult, somehow difficult over here at international level. Next is strategic issues. So different strategies have to be formulated by the international human resource manager in order to get the work done from people of different countries. So as I've told already, people from different cultures are there, people from different countries are there, people from different mindsets are there, people have different minds. So there needs to be different strategies which have to be formulated at different levels. So such type of strategic issues a person has to face, international human resource manager has to face when people from different countries come in front of the HR manager at the international level. Next is industrial relations. So it's not important that industrial relations will be done at is being done at only at the domestic level. It's being done at the international level also. It's taken into consideration at international level also. Now, what this context is, it's not just the relationship between employers and employees. Industrial relation is the relation between employer and employee, different stakeholders, which are connected parties to that particular establishment, as well as the state. Here, the state denotes the government. The particular industry has to maintain good relations. So, in particular, the company has to maintain good industrial relations with different stakeholders, because until and unless they do so, they won't be, having a good rapport in the market that this particular industry is quite good. If they are maintaining good relations among different people, among different stakeholders, particularly with their employees, particularly with the government, they are not making the government interfere in their affairs. They are settling down. They are doing collective bargaining on their own. They are settling all the issues of employees on their own. They're not engaging government. So that means that particular industry is having very good industrial relations. So as I've told, it's not important that a particular company maintains good industrial relations within domestic boundaries only. So when we talk about human resource management at international level, industrial relations have to be maintained there also, because obviously people are working there, different stakeholders are also existing there also. So that is why industrial relations plays an important role at international level. Now this is the next is which we have discussed a bit about cultural context. So obviously people from different cultures are in front of an HR manager at international level. Different people are sitting, in front of them for an HR manager. So it's important to tackle those cultures. It's important to make those people happy of different cultures, to make them feel comfortable in their particular environment. Because until and unless they're happy, they won't be able to fit into that job. If they're not happy, they may, move back to their own country, and they will leave the job. So cultural context plays an important aspect, which does not play an important aspect at domestic level, but it is an important thing which has to be seen by the HR manager for a multinational enterprise at the international level. Now, managing diverse human resource is connected with cultural context because there are different diverse human resource which are present at the international level in front of the HR manager. So, how to manage them? What are the strategies to be adopted? The way we've discussed about strategic issues, from time to time, the HR managers need to formulate different strategies. So, what strategies have to be formulated to manage those human resources? Because we know, like, let's say a company has appointed people from employees from India, from Japan, from US, from China. Okay, so people from different places are there. So everybody has to have their own viewpoints, and at one point of the other, they may be having a quarrel, the fight or dispute or conflict amongst themselves. So if an HR manager at international level does not know how to manage that diverse human resource management, human resources, then it is not carrying on that particular task in a proper way, because that's the main target which are to be supposed to be fulfilled for the people at international level. So therefore, what we have discussed at international human resource for international human resource management, different activities of HRM plus different activities, additional activities are composed. Such activities are strategic issues, cultural context, managing diverse human resource, form a part of international human resource management. So this was about strategic, this was about different significant issues which are composed in at international human resource management level. Now, so we need to know what is actually the difference between domestic and international HRM. So more HR activities are involved at international level. Okay, we know we have discussed about different aspects which are composed at international level. In normal and in domestic human resource management, we just make sure that human resource planning is being done, recruitment selection is being done, training is being done, salary has been given on time, compensation methods are properly fixed up, performance appraisal is being done. An aspect of industrial relation is being considered. But there's certain aspect like knowing about different global labor laws, standards, knowing about different global, global, ethics, and how to manage diverse cultures, knowing about different cultures. So that means more HR activities are involved at international level, at human resource management at international level. Next is the need for a broader perspective. So an HR manager at international level has to open up his mind, has to have a broader perspective in order to manage the people. Because here there are people from different surroundings, people are from different cultures. There is more involvement in employees' personal lives, because people have left their home country, they have left their families, they after leaving them, they have started working. So it's important that they have to be made comfortable. So at times, many of the problem arises which need to be discussed with the HR manager. So HR manager can sort them out to the best possible way. The example of it can be, suppose a person has taken the entire family along with him, like the spouse as well as the children. So taking care of them, what type of benefits to be given to them, that can be discussed with the HR manager. Or at time when there is a certain problem, so that can be sorted out at the HR person end. So pick and drop facility, such type of benefits can be discussed with the HR manager. So that means there's more involvement in employee's personal life when we talk about HR management and international context. Next is changes in emphasis as the workforce mix of expatriates and local vary. So because there is a difference in the point of view of expatriates and there's a difference in the point of view of local persons. So it changes in the emphasis, that differs. So in order to make something understand to a local person, an HR manager at international level does not need to focus more, does not need to stress more. But for an expatriate, it has to stress more to make the things, to make him understand the thing at that particular level. Next is risk exposure, because HR person at international level has exposed themselves to a great risk because they have recruited from different people from different countries. So might be there can be number of people who are leaving their jobs, who are not happy with their jobs, they're leaving the job. So they may go back to their home country. So it's always an important aspect for an HR manager at international level to make them happy and to make, to motivate them so that they feel good at their workplace. So, but it's a risk for the company all the time that if people are not happy, they will leave the job. So that can, if that is there, it can be a liability for the company. And first of all, the HR manager is accountable for that because it is the HR manager only who has recruited and selected that person. And it was important for the first that HR manager to know these things beforehand while doing the recruitment and selection process. That what are the requirements of a person if the person was not comfortable with that environment, HR manager obviously must not have recruited them for that particular profile or to that particular workplace. So the risk exposure is for both the company as well as for the HR manager. So these were important differences between domestic and international HRM. Here are certain video links which you can watch in order to understand the basic concepts of international human resource management. These are references for the particular subject. Thank you.